What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. On this week's episode, I got something pretty special for you. I have busted out my self bow that I made, I think it was like late summer, early fall. This is a red oak board bow that I got with just materials from Lowe's. I used to make a lot of bows and stuff years ago, and it had been a while since I made one. So I whipped this one up, and this is going to be my first time actually having it put together and come out here and shoot it and try to get some arrows to fly out of it. So I thought, why not bring you guys along? So I can hardly wait. So let's do it, guys. I think this is going to be fun. Now I got a couple different arrow options for this thing. I grabbed these arrows out of my current setup that I have because I got a new string on it. Another video coming soon. Keep an eye out for that. And I can't use these arrows anymore. I gotta do a new setup for arrows and a new tune and change spine range a little bit, but no big deal. And I think these are gonna be pretty close. These are 32-inch Easton Carbon Legacies, 340 spine with 4 fletch trad vanes as per usual, and 200 grain field point on top with 25 grain insert. That's my normal. And then in case that is a little bit too weak, which I think it might be, I got I think this is 125 grain. Anyway, I'm not gonna be shooting very far. I think I'm actually gonna shoot from about right here at the 15-yard line. This is more like 12 yards. So anyway, I'm gonna set you guys up so you can kind of see what's going on, and I'm gonna start flinging arrows. How many guys are you gonna see out here shooting their homemade self bow with a Yoast tab? So maybe give me a little bit of an edge, but I doubt it. I'm gonna start with this 200 grain tip up front. I already had this thing tuned pretty close. It's flying flat out of the bow. Just we don't really know yet about the left and right. So that's kind of what I'm going to find out here with you guys and see what happens. Going to kind of exercise these limbs a little bit. One thing about a self bow, you don't ever want to just grab it, especially with something like this. This isn't the most stable wood. You don't want to just grab this, string it up, and start pulling it back to full draw. It's good to exercise those limbs and make sure you're not putting too much stress on them. A design like this is pretty safe where you have wider limbs, like 2-inch limbs tapering to these, I think are 5/8 is what I ended up making these tips. And it's all perfectly symmetric. I spent quite a bit of time, like you would if you're building a bow correctly, tillering this and using a tillering gizmo to get it perfect. It's a pretty safe design, pretty stable design with the limbs being wider, but anything can happen. This is an oak board from Lowe's. Anybody can do this. So anyway, enough talking. I think they feel like they're doing pretty good, so I'm going to draw back and take a shot. So here we go. It's about 12 yards. That actually didn't do too bad, but it's almost look like tail right, which would be stiff, which actually doesn't surprise me a whole lot. I hope you guys can hear me okay. It's very windy out here, and I can no longer feel my fingers. So just for craps and giggles, I'm going to go ahead and shoot this 125 or 150 grain, whatever this is. I think this is definitely going to be too stiff, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. Yeah, definitely too stiff. It was flying tail right all the way. I have a hunch that this 200 grain is actually not too bad, but I have a pretty good wind howling off here from behind me that's probably pushing the tail end of this arrow over a little bit. So this 200 grain is probably pretty close, which would make this about a 575 grain overall arrow. I don't think I mentioned this bow has come in about right at 45 pounds at my draw length, which is about 29 inches. So very manageable, and this grip is super comfortable. So quiet too, man. Woo. Super quiet, so much quieter than even a recurve. Definitely flies a little bit slow, but I mean, look at how wide these limbs are, guys. And you have to remember, this isn't like a recurve where it's laminated. So, you know, you've got limbs that are, for the most part, a half to a quarter inch thick. And you'll see whenever I unstring this thing, it does have some string follow. This isn't a bow you'd want to leave strung in the deer stand all day long. I'm actually pretty pleased with how this is flying, given the circumstances. That's flying really pretty straight. I think most of that tail right that I'm getting is the wind pushing those fletchings over. But let's step back and shoot it from a little bit further. Okay, so I jumped back here to about 22 yards. I can't feel my fingers. Man. It's only like 25 degrees out here, guys, and the wind's blowing about 15. So I'm definitely suffering to bring you all a little bit of entertainment, so you have to give me that. This is surprisingly shooting with a similar gap to my recurve that's 47 pounds. At least the distances I've shot so far. It's pretty similar. But the string is probably helping that some. And for anybody wondering, with these self-nocks like this, no reinforcement on the tips or anything, I personally feel very comfortable shooting this D97 string on these non-reinforced tips. I don't think there's going to be a problem. I'm not worried about damaging it. I did a pretty good job about making sure everything's rounded over and smooth to not damage a string. And it's still a thicker Flemish twist string, even being a D97, so you're not going to damage these tips. And yes, I do have a clicker on a self bow. Crucify me. I know you guys are probably screaming at the screen right now, but it is what it is, all right? So I'm trying to shoot this thing somewhat accurately, and just to test it out and get some arrows to tune out of it, I wanted to be a little bit more consistent. So, all right, so let's shoot. This is about 21, 22 yards. It's still tailing a little bit right, but also shot a little bit low. Let's try another one. Man, this wind is ripping. So, okay, yeah, that one shot a little bit low. I'm gonna bring it up just a little bit, and I'm gonna actually hold just a little for the wind because it's blowing pretty good. Still shot to the right. you know, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm plucking just a little bit, because between the wind and the cold, and not want a bow to blow up in my face, I'm probably not exhibiting the best form, but doing the best I can. Let's try this again. Not flying too bad, but man, I think between this thing moving so slow and the wind spilling off of this hill behind me, it's pushing my arrows to the right for sure. Probably not going to shoot anymore because I'm about to freeze to death, but let's wrap up the shooting and talk just a little bit more. Well, guys, with it being so cold outside, I decided to just go ahead and come in here to the basement to talk to you guys a little bit more about this bow. So, as I mentioned before, this is a red oak board bow made from just a regular 1x3 oak board from Lowe's in town. I dug through the entire pile until I found one that had a vertical grain. And if you look, I don't know if it'll focus for you, but if you look at the tip of this thing, and you can kind of see with the grain on this, not only the back, but the belly, that the grain, it has to run all the way through the bow this way. So then all the grain works in unison, and you're not leaving places for where, like whenever you look at a board normally, you see all the loops and the waves where the grains have been cut through and violated whenever it was processed. You can't have that if you're going to shoot a board as a bow, because it will find a weak spot in one of those grains and peel it up, and it just won't work. You have to have either like quarter sawn maybe, or a vertical grain wood like this in order to make one. And then I took another piece of oak and glued it on top of here to make a riser section and shaped it the way that I wanted it into a really very comfortable grip with a stippling job. Wrapped the shelf up in Velcro, and this thing's shooting about 3/4 knock high on the knock point, which is pretty high, but pretty normal for a bow like this shot off the shelf. And with a D97 string, it shoots pretty quick. I'm pretty actually pleased with the performance on this bow. I haven't made a bow in years, and I used to make a lot of them all the time, and just kind of quit, kind of lost the passion with adulthood, marriage, children, work, all that sort of stuff, and decided this last year I wanted to try another one. This is probably one of the better ones that I've done for no more time that I put into it. And I'm very proud of it. I think I may even get it out and try to harvest something with it this coming fall. So I'll have a long year ahead of me to practice with it. But it's really a very beautiful bow. And for oak being sometimes a pretty unstable wood, to try to do something like this, it turned out really good. And I'm very pleased with it. So there you have it, guys. Anybody can do this. This bow cost me only a few dollars to make. The most expensive part of this whole bow was the D97 fast flight string from Three Rivers, and that was around $15 or so. This is just an extra clicker I had laying around. Yeah, I know. Throw a clicker on a beautiful self bow like this. What a travesty, right? But in order to get it tuned and kind of shooting close, I wanted to be as consistent as possible to do that. And clickers are an awesome training aid. I definitely wouldn't ever look down on them if I was someone looking to improve my accuracy. So anyway, guys, there you have it. This is just a regular old D-shaped bow with flat limbs, extra wide limbs to be able to take on extra stress. This is probably the safest type of design bow that you can make if you're just starting out wanting to make one and shoot some arrows around with it. The wider you go and the longer you go, the less likely you are to have problems. This bow is only about 66 inches long, but the limbs are about 2 inches wide all the way down to about 5/8. And cut to center on the shelf, which you don't have to do, but I chose to do it and form all this the way that I want it, shape the handle section. So it's pretty accurate all in all, and I'm going to shoot with a lot more until I get used to it, and you guys probably see some more videos. So anyway, guys, this is something kind of different, kind of fun. I want to bring you guys along while I actually seriously tried to put some rounds through this thing and try to get it tuned in close. So again, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for all your views and support. If you haven't already, go down, hit subscribe. Let's keep growing this community that we got, and keep bringing all you awesome people aboard. Go check out some of my other content if you haven't already. Lots of useful information on here. And hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever I do drop new videos. It's a new year, lots of fresh content on the way, and I look forward to sharing it with all you guys. So anyway, guys, get out, have some fun, shoot straight, and I'll catch you next time.